Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install power function on your frunk lid for your Model Y. Now, ever since I got this Model Y, it's been fantastic. It's been a dream. And you know what? Everything is automatic. But the frunk, the trunk lid up front is not. It simply pops open and that's it. And it's the same with all Teslas. There is a solution. So with me, I have a kit from Hansshow. And they have a complete kit with instructions that basically will transform your frunk lid to a power frunk lid and add power functions. And everything's integrated after you're done. You can use your app. You can open it inside, outside. If you have a key fob, it all works. So ever since I saw this kit, I'm like, I gotta get my hands on one. So I actually reached out to Hansshow. I'm like, hey, can you send me a kit? I'll install it and showcase it to my audience and to the world. And they said, sure, why not, right? So this is a sponsored video by Hansshow, and I'm very excited to get started. I was told the installation time would be about 3 hours. Now, I watched a few videos about this install already, so I'm hoping it's shorter than that, but it may end up being 3 hours since I am filming. I'm going to be filming what I'm doing, and hopefully it comes out okay on camera for you guys. So let me get started, and let's see what the end result is. To get started, let me show you the kit. This is exactly what you're going to get. You get brackets, you get the motor, obviously, a lot of wires. You get the power struts, right, which is definitely necessary. More wires, more electronic stuff, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. And most importantly, you do get instructions, right? Color instructions in English. And it does seem like it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's only 15 steps on here. And I have watched videos about this, so hopefully this won't be too bad. In terms of the tools, you can see you do need a 12 millimeter and 13 millimeter wrench, 8 and 10 millimeter socket. You need a Phillips screwdriver and a panel pry bar, which I believe comes with this kit. First thing is disassembly. All these panels need to come off. So the top panel seems to be pretty simple. There's no screws, and you just kind of lift and pry it out. Yeah, this is pretty simple. Okay, now that I have the top panel off, I got to remove this bottom panel. There's 4 screws, but before you could do that, you do need to remove this. There's a panel down here, and I did not know, but there's actually an emergency release inside. So I guess if you were trapped in here or a kid, they can open the frunk by pressing that. So next is to remove this first. So I got to remove the panel, then I'm going to remove that button. So with this pry bar, just go around and just pop out any place that needs to pop out. There you go. All right, so then you can see it's just the panel with this button. So we'll just go push out this button. Okay, so utilizing the pry bar, I was able to just stick it right over here and just pop this thing out. And once you pop it out, now you could just leave this in place and just take out the panel. And the reason why I think this is a better idea than trying to remove this is because this is really difficult to unplug. Now the next step, of course, is to remove this big thing. There's 4 screws holding it and a little tab on the side. Okay, with the screws out, it pretty much just lifts up, except you can see here, there is like a little tab thing that you have to pop out, right? One of those things where you just have to just like pop out of there. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so this is what it looks like without all the covers. Pretty big, plenty of space to get your hands in and do whatever you need to. So next, according to instructions, is to work on the power struts, and it's going to be both sides. Now what's interesting is the strut mechanism and how it's attached is different than a Model 3. You know, I thought that it would be the same as a Model 3. It's not. Model 3, the strut just attaches directly to the hood. In the Model Y, it doesn't. The strut is underneath. So removing these struts are more difficult than anticipated because they're below. They're not above. It's not easy to reach. So you need some kind of pick tool or long screwdriver to stick in. And on both sides, there's like a spring you need to pop out. And once you do, the struts do pop out, but I can't possibly show you that myself. I just want to show you on this side, you do see that I have a pick tool and I stuck it in between the spring and it's popped out, right? So that is okay. The top will come out, and then I have to do so with the bottom. So I just want to give you guys a glance at what it looks like, but you do need some kind of pick tool or screwdriver to be able to shove in there to remove those. Okay, I finally got one strut out unconventionally. You could see this is still attached to the ball screw underneath. And there's a reason why I took this out, because this makes it easier and you do need to replace it anyways. So the top I showed you guys, you need to stick some kind of screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, or some kind of pick tool to unload this spring up on top. Then this comes out, right? Keep in mind when it comes out, the hood cannot be supported anymore just by one strut over there. So I put a basketball there to hold up the hood. You could put whatever, right? The hood isn't very heavy, so just something. It's not really going to slam down, but just keep that in mind. But anyways, so the bottom, this screw, this ball head screw, is in the panel, and it's in a really awkward position to be able to stick something to release the spring down here. So what I did was basically just unscrew this. So this requires a 13mm wrench. And once you unscrew a couple times, you can just use your hands and unscrew it. It's pretty easy to do. So I did that because I couldn't reach this spring, the spring. Also, because this does need to be replaced. So the kit does give you another one that's a little bit thicker. This ball head and screw is thicker, so it does need to go into this place. So I removed it anyways. So after I removed the first one, the second one came out really, really quickly because I knew exactly what I was doing. So hopefully this helps. All the other instruction videos, I see people just glance over this step. And this is probably the most difficult part, to figure out how to actually remove these, because on a Model Y, they're really deep and hidden down. So really hard to reach. So hopefully this helps. So next, you need to replace these with these. These ball heads, they're a little bit thicker, and you'll need to do these both sides, one on each side, before you can install the new power strut. Okay, so as you can see, that new ball head has been installed. Honestly, it's much easier to do on the passenger side than the driver's side. There's just more room, and plus I'm right-handed, so it does help. So next up is to install this. As you can see, much beefier, much thicker, a whole bunch of wiring, right? So this pretty much works the same way over here. The top part, you know, just pushes in, and the bottom part also pushes in. And let's do this. Okay, I got the struts installed. I had to move my car since it's getting dark, so now I'm in the garage fully. But the next thing is to mark this and to remove this. Now, according to instructions, Hansshow wants you to mark the sides. I'm assuming that's for alignment purposes, so that when you put this back on, it's going to be a perfect fit, so you don't have to adjust it later. The problem is, this is black, so it's really hard, you know, to mark it. I have a black permanent marker and a gray. I'm just going to try to mark it as best as I can and see what happens, and then we'll go from there. Okay, it's going to be really hard to see this, but on top there, I did put a couple permanent marker lines. You can see right over there. Hopefully you guys can see that, right? And right over here. That's the best I could do. So next, it's time to remove this whole thing. That screw, that screw. That's because this needs to be installed next. So that is the motor, and then there's an emergency release that will come out toward the bottom, and this bracket and this thing will attach to the locking mechanism. So let me go ahead and take off the original one and then go ahead and install this. Okay, so this is what it looks like after you remove it from here, right? I did unplug a plug over there to make it easier, but there's a big gigantic spring over here. It's a torsion spring, and this right here, this top part needs to be released, okay? The reason why you want to release that is because of that bracket I showed you. This bracket, it does have this unlocking mechanism. This thing needs to go right there. So the spring needs to be unsprung, and then that thing needs to go on here, and then you need to put the spring back on. So that's what I'm going to try to do now. After about 15-20 minutes, I was finally able to put the spring back on. That's actually tougher than it looks. So spend some time with that. You may have to use a needle nose pliers or some kind of pliers to bend it back. And you can see now this arm is behind, right? It's on this thing and it's behind the spring. That's what you want. Basically, this latch mechanism is done. So now you just want to install this back on with this additional bracket behind it. So let me do that. And then afterwards, there's emergency release also, in case somehow your Tesla is out of power or something like that. This is actually going to be routed down here. You know this thing, right? You could pop this open and it's going to sit right behind there. So in case you do lose power, you need to open a trunk, right? You can pop this open, pull, and it will, you know, unlatch the front trunk lid. Okay, this is now back on with the additional bracket. I can see why Hansshow wants you to mark it, because when you put this back on, it does wiggle all over the place. And when you think it's correct, it's really not. But I was able to line up both sides. So next is this. This is actually where the tow hook goes, but it's actually pretty easy. You just press down on the top like that, right? And it just kind of pops out. And there you go. So there are some wires, but you can see inside this is where the tow hook goes in case your Model Y needs to be towed. So now we just need to wrap the emergency latch release over here. And it's pretty easy to do because if you look inside, it's right there, right? So it's pretty easy. Let me do that. Basically, you just fish it over here and then just tie it to these lines, right? You don't want to be hanging out, obviously. You want to be hidden. So you just tie it here. So next time you pop this open, if you do need to use it, it's right over here. And then you simply pull and that's it. Now the cover is back on. This is ready to go. So this motor, unfortunately, you know, Hansshow doesn't really tell you where to put this. So you can see there's a lot of tabs, like here, you know, on the bottom side. So basically, you just want to zip tie this somewhere. So I've seen people try to zip tie it in there, or just somewhere around here, right? Or you can use double-sided tape and put it down here. I've seen people do it. So it's really up to you. I don't know where I'm going to put this yet. So I'm just going to leave this hanging because I want to get everything installed and test before I really do clean up like this, in case something went wrong or something like that, right? So I'm not going to worry about that just yet, but that is something that you guys will have to figure out once you're ready. So next comes this, your wiring harness. There's a lot, but everything is marked. So for example, if you look on this green one, it'll say electric suction plug, and then there's another one over here that says motor plug. So if you follow the instructions, this is what the overview looks like, but this simplifies it. For example, the signal, the status signal plug goes into the lock. You can see there, right? The motor plug goes over there. And then everything goes in the main control board. And then you do have to tap into the battery, positive and ground, right? But overall, this is what it's gonna look like. Okay, so the first one is a signal plug, right? It's label signal status plug. Remember when I was taking out the lock latch, there was a plug I said I removed, right? So basically that goes in here. There's an adapter or a splice in, and then you plug that in here, and then the other one, the other head goes in here. So that's number one. Number two is the motor plug, which is down here. So I know it's dark, but you have to remove that. Let me go ahead. Okay, there you go. And then on the wiring harness, you can see motor plug over there, right? So then this plugs into there, and then that plugs into here. So let me do that. Okay, so as you can see, this is done, this is done. There is one that's labeled electric suction plug, which you won't see on the diagram, and that's because that actually goes into the motor, right? So in case you guys get confused, that's where it goes. Okay, there's not that much left. So the other side of this wire harness goes into this electrical control box, okay? So the blue is actually for the struts, and there are wires coming out of the strut, so you need to plug it in. And then the rest here, these three, right, is for these two actually. So one of them is not used. And on the other side, this is where you do have to connect into that battery, the positive and ground. So let me plug these in, okay, and then let me work on that next. As you can see here, I tapped into power, and then there's, it runs over here. I ran it to the back in case the battery ever needs to be replaced. So I ran it to the back rather than the front. And then over here is the other side. This is where I put ground into the body. This goes in the control board, and on this side, this is where it goes into there. So I'm gonna plug that in, and then I'm gonna plug in the control board, and we should be ready to test. So control board is plugged in. You can see the lights are on. I don't know if that flashing red is good or not. When I plugged that in, I did hear the doors, I believe, unlock or lock, but I definitely heard something enable. That beeper did beep, and I think we're ready to test. So everything is plugged in. I think I removed all my tools, but just to be sure, I'm gonna manually press the frunk down. Seems to be okay. Not hitting anything. Let me bring on my app. Yes. Oh wow. Wow, that worked. Unlock. Oops, wrong button. That's lock and lock. Yes, open. Oh, look at that. Look at that. And the emergency button inside also works. At least it should. That's what this is. Let me press that. Yes. Okay, we're in business. So now I gotta install everything back in, because I've read and I've seen people that have tested up to this point and it works, right? But then when you put the cover back on, it's not right. So I have to test it out and put everything back on. But as you can see right now, it's okay. Okay, so I just put the bottom portion on. I actually didn't clean up underneath yet. I just want to put this on right now, just to see if it works, because this definitely does elevate things a little bit, especially on the sides. I noticed the side was not flush. So let's see how it is now. Oh, it worked. It worked. It definitely made the sides more flush, that's for sure. So it seems like that's it. Let's unlock. Okay, so I have the cover off again. Hansshow does give you a lot of two-sided tape and zip ties, although these zip ties are kind of puny and small, so I might just use my own. But the good thing is, yes, there is double-sided tape, so in case you wanted to, you know, tape the motor or anything else in here, you can. They give you plenty. And also, that control box that's dangling right there, there is also this cover, waterproof cover, right, with two-sided tape, so this will protect it from the elements, but it's underneath the cover anyway, so I don't really think it's gonna get wet, maybe from the heat or something, but it's nice that they give you this, so you can slide this in, and then you can pretty much, you know, tape this wherever, so it's nice that you get this as well. So, okay, so now I am really gonna tidy up, put the cover back on, test this again, and call it a day. Alright guys, I got everything back on, all the panels, the main panel, the top panel, everything just snaps back on. Inside also, this last panel with this emergency button, right? Everything is back on. And you know what, I didn't show me putting this back on because honestly it's just in reverse order of what you did. It's not too bad, just a couple of screws, 4 screws here, a couple push tabs, and everything else just simply pops on. All right, moment of truth. Let's try. See if this still works. Oh, pretty nice, pretty nice. All right. There you go. Voila. So I'm finally done, and start to finish it took me roughly 4 hours. So 1 more hour than Hansshow predicted, and that's because I spent about half the time stopping what I'm doing, filming, trying to film, trying to explain, right? So honestly, start to finish probably took me about 2 hours. And honestly, now that I know what I'm doing, if I was going to do this again, probably no more than 30 minutes. So it's one of those things, once you do it once, it's actually pretty simple. So I'm pretty sure my friend, who also has a Model Y, after he watches this, he'll probably want to get a set, and I could definitely help him with that, and I'm sure I could get it done in no time. Now, as for the instructions, just to provide some feedback and just to give you guys some heads up, the instructions are actually pretty easy to follow, except sometimes a little bit hard to read and understand. But the two things that they don't really explain well is, one, how to remove the existing hood struts, which I showed you guys. It's actually more difficult than it seems at first, but once you know, and I showed you guys how to do it, it's actually pretty simple. So the instructions does not explain that well at all. And number two is, in terms of where everything goes, yeah, it does tell you, but in terms of how to tidy up, where to put certain things here and there, I guess they left it at your discretion. So you'll have to figure out what to do afterwards, right? In terms of zip tying and everything and where you want to put things, that is up to you. Lastly, there's a calibration feature that this doesn't really tell you about, and it happens at first. Sometimes when you open it or close it, the latch is in the wrong position, so the hood doesn't know what to do. Sometimes it just gets confused, so you have to help it along. So if you're done and you find that you're pressing a button, you're pressing your phone and it's not working, right? Move the hood down about halfway, then try it again. Then the system kind of resets, it'll push it back up, and then it'll go back down, right? And it really depends on the locking mechanism too, whether or not it's in a lock mode or open mode. So sometimes you have to play around with it a few times to get it right. And after you get it right, then it'll work every single time. But there is that thing that sometimes you have to calibrate it at first. You know, when I was filming the very first time, it was already good, perfect. But then after fiddling around with it, then I found it was out of calibration, so I did have to do that. So just keep that in mind. It's not a big deal. You just have to play around with it. So those are 3 things that I wish the instructions were better at. Hopefully, with this DIY video, you now won't be confused and you can install your set pretty easily. If you're watching this and you're interested in this Power Frunk kit, this is actually the time to act. And I'm not trying to sound like a commercial or anything, but normally this kit goes for about $567. And that's a good amount of money, right? That's actually a lot more expensive than I thought at first when researching. But Hansshow does have a Black Friday sale going on right now. And if you want to take advantage, you could get 25% off of this price, off of the $567, which is a pretty significant amount, right? So if you're interested, in the description below, I do have the URL that links to this kit. Also, if you want to get that 25% off, then use my discount code DRIVERSONLY, one word, and you get 25% off of this kit. If you want to make your Model Y just a little bit better, a little bit more automated, then I highly recommend this kit. All right, guys, thanks for watching. What do you think? Are you going to get this? Are you not? You know, what are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments below. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be a lot more videos about the Model Y that I plan on releasing, and you don't want to miss any of them. All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.